You feel that? Do you feel that? Oh, shit.
Wow! Yeah.
That gets me every time.
Wow.
Do you want that?
Yeah, can you? Oh, shit. I love when she says that. Hello, everybody. What is going on? We're gonna make fun of some. We're gonna make fun of some Book of Mormon videos today. I hope that it's a fun time. I have a feeling that it is going to be. This is my good friend Tracy.
Hello, everyone.
It's gonna be so fun. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. I thought we would start by since a lot of people don't know Tracy, maybe she could tell us what her Patronus is.
You want the real one or the conversation one?
I want.
Should we reenact that?
Yeah, well, okay. So first of all, mine is a taper, which I think is how you say it. My Patronus is a taper. Now, what is your Patronus, Tracy?
A tapeworm.
Oh, yeah, that would be very confusing for the Dementors.
Yeah, and it's a simple enough one.
Yeah.
I mean,
very
like straight line, even.
Yeah. Okay, side tangent. The Patronus in Harry Potter is like just for fighting Dementors, and then all of a sudden in like book 5 in book 5 they start sending it around as like messengers for some reason, and then it's like it starts to become like a fingerprint. Like they see Snape's his is a doe in book 7, and it's like, wait, why is this? I don't know. It's all of a sudden very weird.
Yeah, I don't. I'm gonna be real honest with you. They started making the movies like right around book 4, so I got stopped reading at that point. Went straight to the movies.
Fair enough. Yeah. So with that being said, now that everybody knows what my Patronus is and what your Patronus is, now there's really no barrier to get this conversation started. You know, that was the only thing that was keeping this from happening. So we are going to watch 2 Book of Mormon videos today, and I'm very excited about this. So let's just... Yeah, can you feel that? So let's just get into this. I need to switch my screen. I think I'm getting a little bit of echo from you all of a sudden.
From me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn you down a little bit.
All right. I'm going to cut to the video now. Well, this isn't really the video, but it's almost the video. And okay, tell me if you can hear this.
Based on actual events as recorded in the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ.
They contain the 5 books of Moses and an account of Adam and Eve, our first parents.
Also the prophecies of the holy prophets.
Yes. And more. Look, the genealogy of my fathers. I am a descendant of Joseph. Even that same Joseph who was the son of Jacob, who was sold into Egypt. The Spirit has shown me that these plates of brass shall go forth unto all nations, kindreds, tongues, and people who are of my seed.
It is wisdom in the Lord that we should have them.
They are of great worth unto us, insomuch that we can preserve the commandments of the Lord unto our children.
All right. My main complaint with all of these videos every time is how long the fade in and outs are.
They're so dramatic.
They're so dramatic. And let's not forget. So Nephi had to kill a guy to get these.
Yeah.
Which is pretty rough. And it's like a book of like his family heritage.
I was thinking about that earlier too. Because, like, other than the fact that it's supposedly his family heritage, what if they got the wrong guy? He was like, they're like, no last name, it's just like Joseph. And he's like, I am related to a Joseph. This is my family.
Well, and it doesn't say Lehi's name in there anywhere, right? These are the first 5 books of Moses. This is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. It doesn't mention Lehi. So, like, what's the third document that says, by the way, like, where's the addendum, that says, like, Lehi, you fit in right here. Like, it's very, I don't know. It's very, very weird. Also, so this is one of the things that I wanted to bring up is for anybody who wants to say, because I've had a lot of people tell me like, oh, you don't have to literally believe that Adam and Eve are part of like Mormon doctrine. Yeah, you do, because it mentions it here. Look, if you want to say the Bible is not translated very well, that's fine. But right here, Lehi, in the most correct book of all books, is saying, I came from our first parents, Adam and Eve. And then later prophets said, yes, and not only is that true, but they lived in Missouri. Like, it's so set in stone that in order to say that Adam and Eve is a metaphor, you have to also start saying that parts of the Book of Mormon are a metaphor, which kind of goes against the whole most correct book of any books thing. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think everything that you've said was like nailed it right on the head. Another thing that I was kind of thinking about as far as these books go is that like other than the lineage, the supposed lineage, what was so important about these brass books that he was like, I need you to go back. Like, they just left all of their belongings, and he's like, I need you to go back and get these books. Because, I mean, what is the worth of them? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you just left all of your belongings, but I need you to go back and get these brass books because it may be my lineage.
Yeah, and it's like so these are super important, right? But then when it comes time for Joseph Smith to actually translate the plates, he's just going to use a rock and a hat. So like the plates were never needed, right? Everything, even if we use the logic of like Joseph can use a rock and a hat and receive them from prophecy, and they were originally written from prophecy by Moses, like, can Lehi and Nephi not receive prophecy, and can they not just write it down without killing somebody? Like, I don't know.
Well, if your lineage was only that far back,
right?
They named 4 or 5 other people.
Yeah, it's 2 stones throw. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't know. We're gonna get into this. This is a little bit of like, this is a fun one, but like, I've had people reach out to me recently and say like, because I made the point in a past video that there's no way you can wrap your head around biologically the story of all of humanity coming from Adam and Eve, because that's not enough people. Their kids would have to have sex with each other, and then their children would have to have sex with each other. It's just a big mess. We wouldn't survive that long as a species. And the counter argument that I've heard about that is this: well, there were other people who were living outside of the garden, and when Adam and Eve were expelled, they just formed families with them. Okay, fine. That doesn't explain what we're going to get to later, the problem that we're going to arrive at later, which is they're going to come to a planet with only two families. Of one family has some daughters and some sons, and one family only has sons, which means this whole like family thing and human population thing again is not going to work. And if that's not a big enough problem, this happens in between those two things twice with Noah when only 8 people survive. Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their 3 wives, and then with the Jaredites again. So like this is a mess.
Yeah.
This is a mess.
It's kind of hard to wrap my brain around, to be honest, because I mean, as you mentioned, some people say that their counter argument is that there were people outside of the garden.
Uh-huh.
But that was not something that I was ever aware of growing up in the church.
Right.
And so it's kind of hard to wrap my head around this whole like, well, I was told this growing up in the church, and now suddenly you're throwing in, you know, there's an idea in my head of what Adam and Eve and that whole story was, and now you're throwing in, you know, the mental gymnastics to make it work, to make it make sense.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So we're getting some comments here. We have somebody named Hayden, and he says, if you need an imposing opinion, I'd love to join you. Let me know. So this is what I'm going to say to this. I want this live stream to go for about an hour, and we're going for 11 minutes right now. Whether you want to be a part of this or not, Tracy, we're throwing out a curveball right now. Hayden, if you want to join us, I will send you a link at, let's see, we're at 11 minutes. So roughly like 8:30. I will put a link in the chat and you can join in. Okay. And you and I, if Tracy wants to stick around, you totally can, but we'll chat for 10 minutes. All right. So Hayden, there's your invite.
This could be fun.
This could get fun. All right. So now on to, do you have anything else about this video?
I only had like the funny things about it. Like,
okay, what are they?
So when it shows up and it's like several days walk outside of Jerusalem.
Uh-huh.
I wonder because Laman and Lemuel, they always seem to be the problem children in this family. That I wonder, it kind of reminds me of like a child throwing a temper tantrum walking through like Disney World or whatever. Like I really wonder how far they got.
Well, because they've
is away, you know.
Yeah, they've been there and back once now. You know what I mean? Like they left, and then Lehi was like, "You actually need to go back because we need these books. It's very important that we get these books that were received through prophecy because for some reason I am not capable of receiving these same prophecies. So go kill that guy, cut his head off." Yeah, no, it's a little bit strange. We're gonna see a good temper tantrum in this next video.
Oh, I'm excited.
I'm very excited for it. I'm gonna copy this link right now. I'm gonna add it, and we're probably gonna pause this one a couple more times. So
before you run that one, I have a question about the plates and how it affected. For me growing up, it was very much about like we need to keep records of our lives, so like journaling essentially. If that was something that you were kind of taught and ingrained with, and if you journal at all.
Expound on that for a second.
So just that, you know, this as we've said, this whole, it's the lineage, it's his line, and they've written down, you know, these plates end up being the history, and then Joseph Smith translates these. But it was just something that we were kind of taught, that it's important to keep a record of your life, and so journaling, so that your kids can read it, and then so on and so on, and you can pass them down. And I think I've actually had some people in my family that have like turned their journals into books, and my grandpa like gifts them every year, and he's like, "Oh, family history," and I don't really care all that much to read about it. But I just didn't know if that was something that was kind of, I feel like that that whole like topic and the beginning of Nephi being born of goodly parents and kind of speaking on his experience growing up wherever. My parents really were like, it's really important for you to make a journal, but I was never good at it because I didn't like to just write this stuff out.
Yeah, I was bad. The only time I was ever good at journaling was on my mission. I do see the value in it though. Like I definitely feel like if my dad had the technology to do something like this when he was my age and I could come across it now, that would be really exhilarating for me. I would love to see him like work his way through like the political problems of his time, like the spiritual places that he's gone. Like I would find that particularly interesting, which is like maybe like a 5 to 10% reason of why I do this channel, just so like these things can exist somewhere.
And on that point, it would be kind of interesting to see if anybody else, like I'm sure honestly it was probably all like in the Library of Alexandria. Is that the one that got burned down? But
I don't know.
But like how many people kind of kept these sorts of records during this time that could maybe prove some of the stuff to be a little bit the opposite of what it was translated, you know what I mean? Like I think we're gonna kind of get into that in this next video, but the personal revelation kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
That is translated.
Yeah. I got 2 chats that I'm gonna show on the screen. We're just gonna read these. Somebody, I'm assuming they're responding to like me adding complicated layers onto this, like, could this really happen thing. J7T8 says the hard question is, how did 6.5 million species and more than 13 million animals and just 8 people manage to find themselves on virtually every inhabitable speck of land? That is the question, right? There's the kangaroo question. So let's break this down for a second, because now I'm kind of having fun with the Noah thing. So this is what I was taught in seminary. Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden, was in Missouri. They, at this point in time, the world was Pangea. Again, this is what I was taught in seminary. And if anybody in the comments, Hayden, I will get you a link at 8:30. So if anybody else was also taught this, then just like confirm it in the chat. But so we're still Pangea. Adam and Eve are in Missouri. Now they go up until the flood, and the flood is when everyone dies, because it covers all of the earth until the 40 days and 40 nights. This is when I was taught that Pangea split and the continents were 7 separate continents. I was not taught that they split slowly over time. I was taught that it all happened in those 40 days and 40 nights. How did kangaroos after Noah lands over in like the old world, as I was taught, he lands in the old world, he lets everybody off the ark, right? Which is not that many people, but a lot of animals. How do llamas, for example, which are indigenous to North and South America, how did they make it there if now there's no way to get back? How did kangaroos make it to Australia? This starts to become a serious problem if you believe in this version of the flood. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And I think we're ready to get into this next video.
Yeah.
So I think that's the link. Sorry, everybody. I'm still getting used to, I have to go into different tabs and then hit play and then come back here. So it's just a little glitchy for me. I now know how Bill Reel feels every week when he does this with RFM. So.
And God directs the prophet Lehi to enlist another family to join them in the wilderness outside of Jerusalem. Conflict arises between Lehi's sons as they experience a difficult journey. Based on actual events as recorded in the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ.
Okay, this is just always my favorite thing to point out. I love the legalese so much based on actual events as recorded in the Book of Mormon. So again, we can't just say based on actual events. I know I've made this point in separate videos. This is my favorite point. If it's so goddamn true, why can't we just say based on actual events from the Book of Mormon? You know what I mean? Or why can't we just say based on actual events? Like, I don't know. I just always have a little bit of fun with that one because I just can't wrap my brain around it. I'm going to speed this video up because remember what I said about slow fade-ins and fade-outs? Well, this one is full of it. So we're at 1.25 speed, and here we go.
Sarai, the Lord has spoken unto me. It is not me to take my family into the wilderness alone, but that my son should take daughters to wife, that they might raise up seed unto the Lord in the land of promise.
I will gather our sons, and as a family, we can thank the Lord for answering my prayers as well.
All right, we're about to start a very long montage, but so Lehi and his family have left Jerusalem. They've gone back once because they forgot something. And by forgot something, I mean didn't realize that they needed the plates and the genealogy beforehand. Now they're going back again for what seems like a more obvious reason. They're like, oh shit, there's only actually boys in this family.
Right.
We're supposed to populate a continent.
It kind of in a way feels like it wasn't really revelation that Lehi got. It was more like, I need these boys out of my hair, so why don't you guys go find some girls to marry? But that could just be a stretch. Another thing that I wonder about is, so they were in the wilderness for 8 years, right? Or
that I don't know about that. I don't think so. I think it was an undetermined amount of time. I don't know how long it was. I think that they had, I don't know. It seems like Jacob and Joseph, Lehi's youngest sons, were kind of old by the time they're in the new world. But I don't like, and by old, I mean like they seem like maybe teens. But I don't actually know the timeline that well.
I guess where I'm going here, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but why? I mean, they just travel, and it always, at the beginning of this video, at the beginning of the last one, it was just like several days outside of Jerusalem. Why leave Jerusalem if you're going to keep going back and forth, for one? And then the second part being like, why not try and find something else out there? Like, you know what I mean? Why go find girls somewhere else?
So you're not saying like, why not just like set up shop a few miles outside of Jerusalem and say, well, Jerusalem's going to get destroyed, but not us.
Well,
like,
I mean, that's one thing that they could have done if they're going to keep going back and forth. But if they're like days outside, why not continue going until they find the next, establishment? Yeah. And then it's probably like Sodom and Gomorrah, so that's why they didn't go any further.
Yeah, maybe everywhere else was wicked, and they thought Jerusalem was the only place. But then again, they said that Jerusalem was wicked, and that's why they needed to to leave. My guess is there was just a family that they knew. I mean, when we see the sons meet up with Ishmael, it seems like they have like some sort of relationship with one another. So it could have been that. My thought when you said it seems like Lehi just wanted his boys out of his hair and was like, "You guys need a distraction. Let's go get you some girls." It seems more likely to me that as Joseph Smith was writing this, he realized that this story wasn't going to work.
It's like, wait a minute, we're forgetting some things here.
Especially if you take on this view of, so there's this thing called stylistic drift, and I'm not going to get too much into it, but the Johnson brothers on YouTube, I'll find the video and put it in this description. They go over what stylistic drift is and how it is part of the kind of the melding together of the Book of Mormon. And what they say is the Book of Mormon was not written from First Nephi to the last chapter of Moroni. It was written from the 120 or the 115 pages of, was it 18? I should really remember this. The 118 pages that were lost, that was the Book of Lehi technically. And then it was the rest of the story. And then Joseph Smith went back after the story was over and he rewrote the Book of Nephi, which was 116 pages. Thank you, Matthew. For some reason, that was, I said every number except 116. So then he goes back from the beginning and rewrites what was in the Book of Lehi, but from Nephi's perspective. And the idea here was that nobody could accuse him of changing the words and saying that like it wasn't a true translation, because he found out that God prepared for this and had his son write a secondary, like a backup version.
Okay.
And so what the point that the Johnson brothers are making here is that the Book of Mormon, if you analyze the text, seems like it has different authors, because it starts here, and when I say here, I mean like the tone and like the character of the author starts here and then jumps to something else and then changes. So but it's not really doing that. It's going in a line where it's a very smooth transition. You have to look at it in the order that it was written. And the best way to describe stylistic drift is kind of like if you look at your favorite band over the course of like 5 albums, their work grows and changes, but you never think, oh, wow, this 5th album is so different than their first album. They couldn't have written this album. You know what I mean? It's just that their work progressed. But if you were to take the first 2 albums and say, actually, these albums are the last 2 albums, then you would see like a drift and then something else, if that makes sense. I just took way too long to explain all of that, but it felt necessary. But yeah, Joseph Smith. So I guess the point I was trying to make is Joseph has already written the destruction of the Nephites and the ending of their people. Now he has to write the prequel to that, and he's probably forgetting what is going on, and he's probably working with a scribe at this point, so he can't say, oh wait, no, I was wrong, it actually says this. He just has to find a way to organically work it back into the story. So yeah, super long exposition. God damn.
No problem. Also, just a little background on me. I was not a return missionary. I never went on a mission. I left the church at a pretty young age. Or I guess like stopped going to church at a pretty young age. And then I've never really looked into anything else besides, when it comes up with family or whatnot. So please just take my word for the experience that I've had in the church and whatnot. So some of this stuff is new for me to learn as well. So that's interesting. But but what you just described, that makes sense. The stylistic drift.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's happening.
Yeah, and I'm wrong all the time, so
that's fair. There's no right or wrong, right?
Well, we don't have to be. This is like the classic, like, not that I want to be this person, but this is like a more of a fun episode. Like, we're just trying to laugh a little bit, and I'm making it way too serious. So
no,
I need
not
to.
at all.
All right,
I've got so many questions now.
Well, let's see if we can get through this video. We're only 2 minutes into this video. Yeah.
So what part of Utah do you think
And
that
we
is?
shall take daughters to wife, that we might raise up children unto the Lord in the land of promise. Yes, but a wife and a family. Ishmael.
Oh, Laman. Did not expect to ever see you again. Well, Lehi and Sariah.
Ishmael, our father sends us with a message. We must speak with you.
Of course. Come, sit.
We doubted our father's vision for a time, but in our journey to get the plates, we saw an angel. As bright as the sun at noonday in the cave where we stood. Our father was shown that Jerusalem will be destroyed, that many shall perish by the sword, and many more carried away captive into Babylon.
The Lord desires that the house of Ishmael join with the house of Lehi in the wilderness,
To journey to a land of promise that he has prepared for us. The Lord wishes that I and my family go with Lehi and his family into the wilderness.
Yes.
We know that Lehi is a faithful man. Do we not also believe what he has taught in the words of all the prophets?
Father Ishmael, our two families are a branch of the house of Israel. The Lord desires that our families unite, that we might inherit the land of promise.
Come with us.
Let us ask the Lord.
This is hopeless. We should return home.
Days of sun, sand, and more. Sun?
My own home, I could at least rest in the shade.
You.
Say the Lord desires this union of our families.
Yes, he does.
For what purpose? Why have we forsaken so much for so little?
We have done it because our parents are fools.
Why should we not go back? Let Nephi and Sam wander the wilderness with mother and father.
None you will. If you return to Jerusalem, you will perish with everyone there.
Better to perish in Jerusalem than perishing here.
Laman, Lemuel.
Father is not the only fool. We too are fools for following him.
Please! Ye are my elder brethren. And how is it that ye are so hard in your hearts and so...
There's a whole bunch of good stuff here. I'm gonna lose my train of thought if I if we don't address some of it right now. Laban just made some good points. He's like, why don't we just let them go? Why do we keep doing this?
Yeah.
That's a great point. Why do
Well, that, and I think it's kind of funny that they showed up and they were like, Ishmael, we fought our father's vision. We didn't trust him. And now that they're having to walk again in the on the sun, the dirt, they're like, why do we listen to that guy? Now that we've dragged other people into this mess, like why did we listen to him?
It's so, and it's like, okay, imagine you're Ishmael and Ishmael's wife. And I think Nephi and his brothers are portrayed as like at least in Ishmael's family, that Lehi is a respectable guy. I know that other, like Laban says, your father's crazy, when they're asking for the plates. But no matter how respectable this person is, if 4 dudes just showed up at your house and were like, we want to have dinner with you, and then we want you to move to a different country with us, and we need to marry all 4 of your daughters, I would say I would be on the fence about that.
Yeah, it'd be a no for me. Well, and I think another thing too that I kind of sat in there that I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around is that so they leave because he has this prophecy that it's going to become wicked, people are going to die. And they left almost immediately, right? Because they left all of their good belongings and whatnot. But then they keep going back and things are fine.
Right.
So why didn't they take Ishmael with them from the beginning? Or if things are still fine, the 2 times that they've gone back, why don't you just go back? You're only
I know
a stone's throw away from Jerusalem. You're only a few days away, maybe 5 miles.
I mean, they probably are like, well, we know that God will destroy Jerusalem at some point. Like there's always an excuse every time they walk back and it's fine. Like even if they go back 100 years later, which would be impossible, but like even if they went back like so much later and it wasn't done, they'd be like, well, good thing that was a test. It was an Abrahamic test.
Yeah.
God wanted to see if he could trust us, Yes. They're never not going to believe the thing that they're committed to believe, right? But no, that's a funny point. They're like, this place is still fine. Maybe we could just ask God if he could be a little more specific. Like, because that would be nice, right?
Yeah. I think that kind of points out the problem that I've had with religion is kind of that like Nostradamus effect, where people have written things or had these visions or these prophecies from God, but then you're like, whether or not it happened the way that they said it was going to happen years and years, decades, thousands of centuries later, whatever, not thousands of centuries, but centuries later,
right?
People will go back and read that and do the Nostradamus effect, where they're kind of like translate it to be like, oh well, this is what happened.
Yeah, exactly. The same thing happened with the Jehovah's Witnesses in like the 70s. There was a big like prediction that the world was going to end. All the leaders were saying it, and then the day came and went, and obviously the world didn't end. And then their numbers shot up.
Really?
Yeah, their numbers shot up, and they've been growing steadily ever since then. But that was not. If you ask any of them, like, did that make you question things? It's like, no, because the leaders always spin it as like, we did just good enough that we are preserved, but like we really need to do better, guys. Like it's always something like that. It's always a kind of a little bit of revisionist history. Yeah, let's get back into this. This is let's see. Well. Yes, it's going well. It's about to go less.
This hike.
Yes, they are days
aren't happy.
The boys are out of town.
So blind in your minds that you have need that I, your younger brother, should speak unto you. Yea, set example for you.
It would be wise to cease such talk, little brother.
How is it that ye have not hearkened unto the word of the Lord? How is it that ye have forgotten that ye have seen an angel of the Lord? How is it that ye have forgotten that the Lord is able to do all things according to his will for the children of men, if it so be that we exercise faith in him? If we are faithful to him, we shall obtain the land of promise. And ye shall know that the word of the Lord shall be fulfilled concerning the destruction of Jerusalem. The spirit of the Lord ceaseth soon to strive with them. They have rejected the prophets, and Jeremiah they have cast into prison, and they have sought to take away the life of my father, your father. I will not be lectured by a boy! If you will return to Jerusalem, you shall also perish with them. And now if ye have choice, go up to the land, and remember the words which I speak unto you. If ye go, ye shall also perish. For thus the Spirit of the Lord constraineth me that I should speak. Hold him!
Let's leave him in the wilderness, devoured by wild beasts.
Oh Lord, according to my faith which is in thee, let thou deliver me from the hands of my brethren. Yea, even give me strength that I may burst these bands with which I am bound. Layman Lemuel, please listen to me. Find him again. Do not do this.
Let us stop! Please! This is no more! He is your brother! Please!
Nephi. I'm sorry. We have done you a great wrong. I'm sorry as well. Please forgive me. I forgive you. But I exhort you to pray to the Lord your God for forgiveness. We will. We will.
Soraya, they have arrived. Well,
All right.
Can you imagine rolling up and being like, Dad, we did it again. We tried to kill Nephi.
We relapsed. It's like, yeah, I'm sending you to Fratricide Anonymous. You have to stop this. They can't stop.
About it.
Oh man, so a couple of things that I noticed. So according to the math, somebody I don't know what this means. I used to love that movie. Are you referring to the movie that we just watched, or like I would love to hear what you are referring to. So I did the math once, and so there should have been 14 people in the wilderness at this point. That's assuming Lehi, Sariah, the 4 sons, Ishmael, his wife, his 4 daughters, and then if I remember correctly, he has 2 more sons. Now, when they arrive in the Americas, this is too much math again. I'm sorry. I can't help but make these things insufferable. When they arrive in the Americas, Jacob and Joseph are born. And so it mentions them. And so roughly and I did this math straight out of the Book of Mormon. Now, unless there are people who are along for the ride. Oh, and there's Zoram actually. So that would make it
Oh, right.
that would make it 17.
But
But
been there after the first
yeah,
right?
Zoram should have been in that most recent video, but that's honestly not a big deal. But yeah, so I got a lot of pushback when I said that Adam and Eve wasn't enough people, because what I cited was an article from Nature Journal, or the Journal of Nature, that said you need and 10 people to populate a new planet. Now, again, 17 people coming from 2 families, well, plus Zoram, so I guess a 3rd family if we're being generous, it isn't enough. But also that fight scene doesn't make any sense.
That was like UFC 1.
well, he ties him up, and then God loosens the bands, and then all it takes is for one of the girls to say, "Yo, dude, that was your brother," and they just break down and start crying.
And he's like, "Oh shoot, you're right. I did it again."
I forgot that was my brother.
Yeah, I keep thinking about when I first watched that video about the the breaking of the bands. One, they should have made it like way more dramatic, because he was like burst these bands. It should have been like like slow-mo, some more fading in, fading out. But in the reality of what it was, it reminds me of that that story that I told you about, that podcast that my aunt was telling, that story. Kind of the same, like the same concept. I won't go into it here because it's got some triggering themes to it, but he was like so upset, so frustrated, and he was like trying to loosen himself from that and essentially fighting against himself and how tight it was against his ankles and against his wrist. And then the second that he calms down, suddenly they're a little bit more loose. He can get his hands out. So to me, there's just this element of, it's all in the psychology of, was he really, bound up that tight in the first place? Like his brothers, I mean, the way that it looked when they just kind of undid themselves, like they did not tie a very good knot. Boy Scouts of America was not a thing.
It wasn't around yet. Well, my first thought when Layman is like, "Let's tie him again," it's like, dude, didn't you just watch her not work? Like, what makes you think it's gonna? How confident are you? The hubris on this guy. But no, it's like, it doesn't. I get that every video needs a climax, and so this is that. But it just like it. Look, the whole point of this like video series is, even though all I've been doing is saying that it can't be literally true, that actually isn't the goal that I had in mind when I started this. It's just to say, like, this isn't great storytelling. Like, Joseph Smith wrote a bad, boring book. I mean, a book that Mark Twain called chloroform in print. But what I actually respect about these videos is that they're really well made. The acting is pretty good. The sound is really good. The camera work is phenomenal. It just kind of proves to me that you just can't really polish up a bad story with 20th century like film knowledge and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? It just falls flat in the end because the story is bad. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
That's 100%. That's it. Everything's good. The story itself, it's like, was this a DC production or?
This was DC for sure. This was DC. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess I wasn't trying to dunk on it the whole time. I mostly wanted to laugh about it, which I feel like we successfully did. But
I did think at the end how funny it would be if because I mean, I don't know anybody really notices like some of the background stuff, but how funny would it be if there were just like, every time you see the camel, every time it cuts away from the camel and then comes back, there's just like more and more and more stuff on the back of that camel, because that's kind of what it seemed like.
Well, when girls pack for a trip, it's it can get pretty wild, and you don't know how many checked bags are going to be allowed on the great boat or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Oh man, this has been epic. The chloroform. Yes, it's a little bit true. It kind of translates to this video as well. So I'm going to do something very insane right now. Hayden, if you're still watching, I'm going to put a link in the chat. Except I don't know if this will ruin things in the future, like if this link will become, well, it should be fine. But Hayden, if you're watching, I'm going to put a link in the chat. Okay, cool. So this is because I really don't like to have live streams that are much longer than an hour. But I want to give you like a good 15 minutes. You can start, you can make your case, you know. I mean, whatever you want to do. All right. So come on, make your case. We'll have a chat. And we'll go from there. All right. So this should be fun. I've never done anything like this before. I've also never seen, I've watched a lot of ex-Mormon content, and I've never seen this actually take place on a live stream before. I always see people who are saying, I'll debate you, just give me a link, and then they never do. So like, this is awesome. Hayden, loads of respect. You did come in a little hot at the beginning when you said, is this an echo chamber? At first I thought you were referring to our bad sound, but then I realized that was a dig. No. Not cool, but it's okay. I forgive you. So I'm putting a link in the chat now. And I mean, in theory, anybody else could click this link. So Hayden, I'm going to need you to like label your name. Like it's like Zoom. So you'll put a name that you want to go. Yeah, you got my attention with the mean one. It wasn't that mean. But then yeah, so we'll chat for, I will look at the clock when you get in, and we'll just do this. And hopefully this will be fun. I'm gonna try and stop sharing my other screen. Okay, cool. And yeah, now we just wait. Oh, and whatever device you're using this on, you're going to have to like give StreamYard permissions, and then you might have to leave and come back. So there you have it, everybody. Now this is what we call dead air, where we are just waiting for something to happen.
This is where Cody busts out the magic tricks.
Yeah. So this is what I. Yeah, that's right, fuckers. That's all I have. So I really hope that I hope that like got us. Anybody? Yeah. Oh yeah. There we go. A little bit of I can't do this. It's fine. It's fine. Yes. So and like I said, so we're gonna Hayden, if you can get on, then awesome. We'll go for 15 minutes once you join. And I'll say what the time is when you join. And if you don't, hey, there's a person here. There's a person here. So I'm adding Hayden to the stream right now. Hayden, can you hear us?
Hey, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can absolutely hear you. So
I'm on my
talk
iPhone.
to me, man.
Hey,
that works?
I'm trying to get my camera to work. Give me a second. Let me.
Oh, I see something happening on your end. I mean, I see it saying that it's off and then on.
Yeah. Let me
That's okay. We can go audio only. It's fine.
Okay, I apologize. I'm gonna
Nothing to be sorry about. We're at 53 minutes. I'll call it 54. So I'm gonna give you 15. All right. So what are we doing wrong here?
Okay, well no, I just first I want to apologize for coming in hot.
I mean, you got my attention, so it's all good.
I appreciate you wanting to interact. So one of the things, and kind of like you said, you've never seen this happen before. Same here. I commonly am watching ex-Mormon, atheists, podcasts or videos, and constantly, and even Protestant videos that I disagree with. And I'm constantly like, hey, have me on. Let's do this. Let's talk. Nobody, not a single person one time. You're the first person to be like, yeah, let's do it.
I'm a little fish, man.
I take it back. There was one other time. Do you know? Oh, what is his name? There's the P. Pine Creek?
No.
He's an atheist.
Okay. Really quick. So my Gmail is theubermormon@gmail.com. So if you think of anything that you forget later, shoot me an email.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping, because in 15 minutes we won't get much done, but I'm hoping that in the future we can have a longer conversation.
Absolutely.
I have a friend of mine named Jacob Hansen who runs a small LDS YouTube channel.
Okay, I know. I haven't interacted with him yet, but I've interacted with his brother Forrest. We're planning on doing something.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So, if you've ever seen any of Jacob's content, sometimes he has me on to moderate debates and a couple of. So you may have seen me on there. That being said, one of the things that I've thought about for a long time since I've been interacting with religious conversations, probably for the past, I don't know, 10 years or so.
Yeah.
I've noticed that, and I'm seeing it here, and I see it with, you mentioned RFM and Bill Reel. I see it with John DeLynn. I see it with all of these people who make an online identity or make their online identity about being ex-Mormon, right? And it's very common. And the ex-Mormon subreddits all over the place.
Yeah, totally.
I think the common mistake is that they're missing the core conversation. And what I mean by that is, tell me, are you guys atheists? I don't know anything about what you guys believe.
That's the easiest way to say what I am, definitely.
Okay. And Trace, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would identify as atheist
Okay.
as well.
Okay, that's fair. So what I'm seeing is, for the people who critique Mormonism, and that's fine. You know, we can talk Mormonism all you want, but I think there are more core conversations to be had before we can really get to Mormonism. And I think there's kind of a couple levels. The first one is, does God even exist in the first place? Right.
Right.
Because if you don't believe in God, then Mormonism is going to be a joke all around. Right. And by the way, Book of Mormon videos, I'm kind of on your side when it comes to the cringiness of those. Like, you know,
dude, I think they're well made. I just think that they were trying to make a story that wasn't written well the first time. That's my whole critique.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And I'd love to talk
middle
about
ground.
Okay. Yeah. I love to talk about, Joseph writing the Book of Mormon, things like that. But first, the conversation is, okay, does God even exist in the first place? And if we can't agree on that, then why are we talking Mormonism? Right. I think that plays a role in our conversations, because everything, right. We go to a problem. I'm going to approach it believing in God, believing in Jesus Christ, believing in Joseph Smith as a prophet. You're not even there with me. So nothing I say is going to be convincing. Maybe, I don't know if that's the best word, or vice versa. Right. You're going to present something, and I'm going to be looking at it through the lens of theism.
Right.
So I think that's a conversation that we probably could have in the future if you're interested in doing something like that.
I would love to have that. So I'm going to just like summarize what you're saying a little bit here.
Sure.
You're saying that a person who believes in God and a person who does not believe in God are arguing, essentially using different vocabularies, different epistemologies, and are driving separate roads. Like, we have to first agree on the language and the method by which we're going to verify what's true and what's not true before we can actually start to get into physical claims. Does that sound like what you're kind of saying?
I would agree with that. I think that's part of what I'm saying. Maybe more succinctly, I'm saying I kind of see it as not a waste of time, but like, I see it as less fruitful to debate Mormonism when we haven't even talked theism, because Mormonism presupposes theism and Christianity. Right. So like with my Protestant friends, we don't have to talk about theism or atheism because we both agree on that. So like, we could check that off.
Okay.
And then we can get to Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Right. We agree on that.
Right.
If I'm talking to a Muslim, we're going to be debating whether or not Jesus Christ is the Savior or the Son of God, whether Muhammad. Right. So there's different levels. And I see us, if we're going to interact or meet with an atheist, there's really no foundation or no progress to be made until we can talk about theism versus atheism. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So, I'll give you a little bit of homework between now and the next time we chat. I have a video on this. It's called Atheism versus Theism, where
gotcha.
I kind of say the same thing that you're saying to me right now, is that we're talking past one another.
Yeah.
And so what I try to do in that video is I want to steel man this idea of an actual God that I can see being psychologically real and valuable to believe in, because the Mormon God, and tell me if you believe in this God that I'm about to paint.
Sure.
Human,
yes,
human shaped, like man,
human species,
human species, lives somewhere in the universe,
physically, yes,
with a wife, and this particular God that you believe in is not unique. There are a whole bunch of other gods who are the gods of other planets that aren't ours, that also live physically somewhere in the universe. Is this the God that you believe in?
Yes.
Okay, so the vision of God that I pull out. Well, actually, no. Let me just ask you this. So what's the best way? I don't believe in that God. Okay, so if you're trying to convince me that that's something that I should believe in, what would you tell me? What do I need to do to verify that that's true?
Like to prove it's true?
Well, yeah. Like how could I follow your cookie crumbs and arrive at the conclusion that you've arrived at and say, oh my God, Hayden is actually right about this. I need to change my mind. Like,
well, you
lay it out for me.
Sure. Well, you couldn't say, oh my God, because you're an atheist. You don't believe in God.
I would say, oh my, something else.
I'm just kidding. So I would even break it down once or a couple steps before that, because to believe in a God doesn't mean, how do I want to say it? You don't have to believe in the Mormon God to believe in God, right? There are most people on the earth who believe in God. It's not the God you just described. I would say it starts with a more fundamental, you might just say higher power, right?
Okay.
And so I would ask, well, my question, we can talk about this, and I'd be willing to answer your question after we kind of talk about this. What's the evidences for a higher power, not necessarily God was once a man with a wife on another planet.
Mm-hmm.
So I would ask what, and I can answer your question. I'm not trying to avoid it, but I think it's more fundamental than what you described.
Okay.
What's the evidences between a higher, we might call it a higher intelligence versus nothing, versus just like the cosmos? I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah, sure. Let's go. Cosmos is a great word for it. So
Sure.
yeah, what is the evidence for a higher intelligence?
Sure. So I think the and you're probably aware of this. And Trace, I don't know, you said that you're kind of learning about some of this stuff. One of the most convincing arguments that I've found, and you've probably heard of, we can talk about it, is simply the argument of fine tuning, which you're aware of probably. I
am.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me what you think about it.
Well, so it seems perfectly reasonable from retrospect. So you say like I heard this said once about fine tuning. You tell me if this is along the same vein. Somebody said that there's great evidence in the fact that our lungs are perfectly acclimated, for lack of a better word, to breathe the percentage of oxygen that is found in the atmosphere on Earth. And they were saying this as proof that some higher intelligence built us to be able to breathe that air. This is an example of the fine-tuning argument. What do you think about that characterization?
I don't think any single argument of fine-tuning in and of itself is very convincing, because there are other probable reasons for that.
Okay. So then you describe, give me what you mean by fine-tuning.
Yeah. So basically, I would talk more so about the universe or the Earth. Take the Earth, for example, right? We know, and I don't claim to be an expert in this in any way, but we understand, as far as I know, the experts who do study this are saying that the Earth is located in such a way, it's tilted in such a way, it is placed this far or close to the sun in such a way that if it was millimeters of millimeters off, that either we would burn up and die, or we would freeze to death, or in other words, that it's basically perfect to sustain life, right? That's the whole argument altogether.
Yeah.
But there are other arguments, sub arguments within that you can talk about the lungs, or you can talk about the placement of the Earth, of these different things. I think the collective idea of all of those things is fairly convincing.
Okay.
And I don't know, maybe I could ask you guys, what's your theory of like where we came from, but not us as people, but like obviously not creation, not an intelligent creation, but is it, evolution, or how would you describe it?
So I'm going to address the fine tuning thing first, because I have a different way of thinking about that one. Essentially, because I'm more of I'm more of an evolution guy, so I guess I'm answering both of your questions at the same time. It seems to me that the way that you just illustrated fine tuning is essentially saying, like, let's say that the Earth was tilted a little more one way or a little more the other way, right? So then we would have probably evolved to inhabit those circumstances. And the way that I think about the fine-tuning argument, it's like a puddle waking up one day, a puddle in the middle of the road and a crack in the road saying, like, this is incredible. It's like this whole road was built just for me. When the opposite is true, actually, the puddle filled in the road. The puddle found an environment that it was able to form itself to, and that's what the puddle did. And so I think of us more that way, as if the world, the Earth that we live on, created a platform that had characteristics that we then adapted to. And so I think the fine-tuning argument, that's why I said I think it makes sense from retrospect, but it doesn't explain, like, the fine-tuning argument is saying that nature had this circumstance and then we evolved to fit the circumstance, where you're saying God created these two things separately and then put them together like a perfect puzzle. And I think that it's more likely that it happened the other way around than the way that you're describing it. That would be would be my argument with the fine tuning.
Sure, and I think that's fair.
And actually, Tracy, do you have anything that you want to throw in here? Sorry, Hayden. It's just been you and me talking. I want to throw Tracy in here if she has any thoughts.
I'm just taking notes because this is all fascinating.
Okay, so can I ask both of you? So your guys' take would be that there is no higher power. We're here by chance. We are no different than any other beast, if you will. And there's no objective moral framework. We're kind of just here living because, well, help me understand kind of your totality of how you see all this.
Yeah, so this is what I was talking to Forrest about wanting to make a video about. So are we here by chance? Sure. That one, I don't have a problem with that one. So in a sense, the argument is a little bit, you're saying that God created everything, and I'm saying I don't know what created everything. But if we take a step back and say what started gods, or where did God come from, like, you're now in the same position that I'm in, where you have to say, well, I don't know what that is. Or maybe you can say, I know what that, it's the infinite regress problem. So you can say, you don't know what created the earth. And I can say, fair, you say that God created the earth, but you don't know where God came from. And so then you're now in the same position.
He came from his God, right?
So then it's just turtles all the way down.
Yeah, I'm
right?
just kidding. I'm just joking.
No, but
no, you're right. You're right.
We're in the same. We're in the same place, really. Totally. You're just you have one filter in between your views, and I don't have any filters in between my views. But so
wait, tell me what you mean by that. Tell me what you mean you don't have any filters.
Well, so you have, I guess buffer is a better word. You have a scapegoat, or you have something, you have a special plea, or you have like a magical card.
Well, I would say I have in a secular term, I have a theory.
Okay. And
is that our timer?
That was our timer. Didn't that go fast?
Yeah, it was quick.
That was very quick. Do you want to wrap up what you were gonna say? I would love to keep talking to you. And then Tracy, if you have any thoughts at all, you can throw them out there. I said I would let you.
Again.
Yeah, it's the ubermormon@gmail.com. If you've read any Nietzsche whatsoever, this joke will land. But but it usually doesn't land. I mean, I said I would I said I would let you on. I wanted to have you on. I was excited by that. I also told my wife that I wouldn't go that long tonight, and so I want to keep it at 15, but I do want to keep chatting with you. So wrap up what you were going to say there. Tracy, you can throw in any thoughts that you want to about anything at all. This live stream took a fun, weird turn, but I'm here for it. And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry my camera didn't work, but
you don't have to be sorry about that.
We'll get it on the next time we talk.
We'll figure it out. So Hayden, wrap up what you were saying, and then if you wouldn't mind just hitting leave studio, and then me and Tracy are just going to wrap up.
Sure. Okay, I'll be quick. First of all, I want to say just thank you for being willing to get. You guys are both very pleasant, which is nice, which doesn't always happen with some of the ex-Mormon community and some of the LDS community, right? Some people are just weird. That being said, I will say, and I told this to Pine Creek as well, and after I told him this, he was kind of combative. He was friendly, but he was kind of combative. And you really haven't been that combative, but I appreciate the conversation. But when I told him this, he basically said, "Oh, okay. All right, I guess we have nothing to talk about. Have a good day." And here's what I said. I said, look, at the end of the day, even Joseph Smith, right? If I'm going to quote him as an authority, even he said, if I didn't experience what I did, I wouldn't believe myself. So anybody, Mormon or ex-Mormon or atheist or theist or Protestant, anybody, Catholic, if they say I don't believe in Joseph Smith and what he did, my response is, I don't really blame you. That being said, I agree with you. We are both in the same boat. We both, all three of us, everyone on this planet, we're doing the best we can with the information that we have, and we're using our experiences. And here's also what I told them. I said, look, and I'll say this to you guys. If I had your exact experiences, I would probably believe what you believe. That I'm kind of not here to condemn anybody, but just to say this is how I'm viewing the world, and this is how I see things, and this is what it's led me, right? This is what my belief has led me to. So that being said, I appreciate you saying that we're kind of in the same boat, because I kind of agree. At the end of the day, we don't know hardly anything. I don't think religion. I think you have to take it on faith at the end of the day. Which, and I would say that atheists have to take things on faith at the end of the day as well, but they may not call it faith. But you get the idea. So anyway, I appreciate the conversation. Tracy, sorry, is that your name, Tracy?
Yes, Tracy.
Or Trace Face. Go. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to take up all the time.
No,
you're
not
good.
at all. I appreciate
You're good. Thanks for hopping on, man.
Okay, I will leave, but I'll keep listening. Thanks.
Sounds good. All right, Tracy, what were you gonna say?
I think the only thing that I had to add when it came to him, talking about, so I do identify as an atheist in the sense that I don't believe in the Mormon God that I grew up to, they instilled in me and whatnot. But I remember going into about the time that I was starting to discover my sexuality, about the time that the same time I was losing my religion, dealing with, how that affected my family life. I started therapy, and I remember talking to my therapist about this, because being gay and in the church, it feels very isolating. I felt very hated by a God that was supposed to be loving, right? And so I was struggling with, how could people say that, God gives his hardest trials to his strongest warriors or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, how could he do that to people? How could, childhood cancer, I think that's one of the biggest ones that guy does, that like, how could he do that? And so I was kind of struggling with that as well. And one of the best pieces of advice that she gave me that I kind of hold on to is that your higher being, or your thing that you believe in, doesn't necessarily have to be this God that's written in the books, but your higher being can be something as simple as the golden rule, and that's what you live by. That's your higher being. And so, and that's all I had to add.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. I think that your higher being, it varies from person to person. In Christianity, in Mormonism, in other religions, it tends to be a personified father figure who represents things. Like, I think that the Christian God is the best. How do I say this? It was the best attempt that humanity could muster together that was essentially saying, like, we believe in doing what's best for the longevity of our civilization and culture over time. And so if we follow these rules, if we treat our neighbors how we want to be treated, if we don't steal, if we don't kill, if we don't if we don't take the name of God in vain, which is essentially to like blaspheme your higher power or something like that. If we don't do that, then our society will work better over time. And I don't think they were wrong about that. I really don't. I just think that, you know, is there a human shaped person living somewhere in the cosmos who's the origin of that morality? I don't know. And so that's where the debate breaks down for me. Matthew said, he said this while we were chatting with Hayden, but I didn't want to throw something in the middle of our time. He just says, if person 1 and person 2 have opposing views on God, then they will talk past each other the whole time. I don't think necessarily this is the case. I don't know if you're asking if this has to be the case, Matthew. If you're still here, you want to clarify that, go for it. But I think that we've been taught as a culture that we can't have difficult conversations.
Yeah.
And that if we disagree about something fundamental, then, you know, that all hope is lost. I don't think that that's the case. What I said to Hayden and what I still think is true is that we need to get on the same road, because I think that when people have such fundamentally deep disagreements, you have to go through a rigorous process of defining all your terms and then saying, okay, so what do you call this? Maybe that's what I call this. Is it actually the same thing? I find you end up agreeing with a lot more people than you think that you would when you have conversations that way. So that was fun. That was weird.
Yes, that was fun.
That was weird.
What's so good?
Hayden, I appreciate you coming on.
Yes.
You thought I was going to be mean, and I wasn't.
Yeah. Well, and I also want to thank Hayden for being so open to the conversation. You know, he wasn't combative, and I think he had a lot of good things to say as well. So
yeah, and we got two thumbs up from Hayden. So with that all being said, I'm going to end this motherfucking broadcast.
And I'm sorry that we kept you so long.
I know. I told my wife that I would go to an hour, and I'm glad that we went over. I think it was worth it.
Yeah.
I hope this isn't going to even come across as like the same thing. Like we started in such a different place than we are now, but it's fine. That's what live streams are for. So at some point, I will do the next Book of Mormon video, and either Tracy will be with me or somebody else will be with me, and it will be fun. And Hayden, I got your email, so we will chat in the worldosphere. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
See ya.